Hello, everybody. So I'm going to tell you a little story about how I was almost mugged. Um, Not because anybody cares, but I think it's somewhat of an interesting story. At least the way that it went down. So it was, I think it was about a week and a half ago or so, maybe 2 weeks, whatever. And I'm outside and I am smoking a cigarette and typing on my iPhone. And I'm like right next to the sidewalk outside my apartment on the ground floor. And it's late. It's about 3 a.m. or so. Actually, no, it wasn't that late when it happened. Um, I'd say around 12. Either way, it was late. Later than 11, earlier than 6 a.m. So, uh, anyhow, so I'm typing and some dudes start walking down the street, and they pass me on the sidewalk, and I can tell that they kind of like pause for a little bit. They kind of slow down and take notice of me, I guess. Um, So at that point, I kind of backed away. It was three guys. I'm one guy. So I backed away a little bit more toward my apartment. And they got about 10 or 15 feet. And one of the guys turns around and asked for the time, which apparently, statistically speaking, is the number one question that people are going to ask right before they mug you. Not fun. Um, and I didn't know this either. So, and I live in a relatively safe neighborhood. So, I said, yeah, I gave him the time, no problem. And then he started to walk back, and then he started to walk closer, and he asked if I could lend him my lighter. He asked to borrow the lighter, and I say, yeah. Do you need do you need smoke too? And he said, no, I'm fine with that. And while he's asking this question, I'll do my best impression. Not that it's really of any importance. He's doing this like that much, trying to show that he's like looking for his cigarettes in his pocket, I guess. Um, so anyhow, he then took his hands out, and at this point, I started to take my phone and put it in my pocket to um, reach, so I had a hand free to get the lighter or whatever. At this point, he tries to grab it and run at the same time. Didn't work out. Phone falls, and at that point, I am now in like a stare down match with these guys. So he doesn't move to get the phone. I don't really move to pick up the phone, and his two other buddies are at this point like failed attempt, don't know what to do. So they're waiting for him to do something. So it's just me and three dudes, like, and I'm just kind of either waiting for them to do something or whatever. And I'm pretty sure they were doing the same thing. So a couple seconds go by, and I reach down, I pick up the phone, I put it in my pocket, and part of my language here, I just say not cool, like really, guys, not cool, and they still don't move. They don't go away. They don't move closer. They don't do anything. At this point, I live on the ground floor. My wife's inside, and I'm not about to go in my apartment while these guys are still hanging out. So, like 5, 10 seconds go by, and they still don't move. They don't say anything. They're just looking at me, waiting for me to do something. Maybe waiting to dial 911 right in front of them because they think I'm going to be stupid or what. And so we're still like in this dead, stare. And I just continue smoking. And I'm looking at them, and they can kind of tell that I got my fist clenched, and I'm ready for whatever happens because I'm not going to let them get to my wife. Worst case scenario. So more time goes by, and it's like 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds at this point. And I just, look at him and I say, I'm not going to do anything unless you get the out of here. And I obviously said it more commanding. And this whole time I was very commanding. I didn't really back down or anything, and I'm not saying that to be, proud or anything. It's just I'm the youngest of six, and I say that in the sense that it takes a lot to make me like cower. I'm used to bigger people messing with me. So three, none of them were like huge. So three guys, already planned who'd I'd hit first and how and blah blah blah. Even though that's very movie-esque and probably wouldn't have worked out at all, but I did. So The one guy that's really close to me that tried taking the phone then eventually starts to walk backwards, staring at me the whole time like I'm going to do something to him. And once he backed up and up, I walk inside. You know, I'm a little shaken up at this point. I got a lot of adrenaline going through my body, and um, I'm starting to get angry about the situation. Um, you know, but I walk inside, and the first thing I do is look out the window, and lo and behold, my blinds are like they're Venetian, whatever. They're tilted, so like you could see exactly into my apartment. So they saw exactly which apartment I went into. So I walk in the other room. I walk into this room, actually, my office, and I call 911 and I say I almost got mugged, and it was kind of funny because they said, you know, do you have a description of the people? And I said, yeah. And then I paused and I realized what I was about to say is stereotypical, and I don't know. My memory happened fast, whatever. And I say, actually, this is going to be racist. It's going to sound racist. It was three black guys with like baggy jeans and urban clothes um, with a hard walk. And the 911 guy actually chuckled a little bit and said, "Okay, we're gonna have an officer come." So officer comes and he says, "We picked up the guys, and do you want to go with the detective to where we caught these guys?" And as it turns out, they were already combing the area, and they ended up once they got the call, they all kind of focused around my apartment, the surrounding streets, and they pull up into an alley, and these same three guys are kicking the shite out of another dude, and he's curled on the ground in the fetal position. So one of the guys tries to run. They pick him up real quick. He ended up being the guy that tried to steal the phone. Had a little standoff with me. Then, we meet him on the street. So we pass him. I give the nod to the cops, and it was funny because I asked when we got in the car, are they going to see me? And he said no. So we pull up, and the cop pulls up next to where they got this guy, and they're a little ahead of me, and I'm back here. They're right here, and I nodded the cop that yeah, that's the guy. They then put the guy in the back of the cop car that's still ahead of me and the detective, and then the detective starts to drive right past the guy. So while we're driving past the cop car, I simply am in the back seat and I just go, and I wait until we pass the car, and then I go back up and do that. So we go to the other two guys. They, I identified them. The cops were pretty rough with them as far as how they were handling him at that point. The guy that they were beating up walks by the car, and he's got blood coming down the side of his head. As it turns out, these were three guys that were in a 5-person party, and they were apparently coming into the neighborhood and taking the L into the neighborhood from a not as nice neighborhood, and they were just randomly beating up white guys that were alone and seemed weak, I guess. And it was funny because the cop said that the only thing that saved me in the situation was the tone that I gave and the fact that I didn't run inside, I didn't call the cops right away. I more or less stood my ground and, had this mentality of if you're, whatever's about to happen, I'm okay with, and I will do what I have to do. Sadly, I've been in that sort of situation before in Chicago, and it's just a really awkward situation to be in, and it's not cool. Anyhow, so the cop also mentioned that because I don't take care of my face, that I didn't look like their normal target. I looked a little scruffy, and as he put it, he went, "You don't really look like you care about being hit." So that's actually the short version of the story. I suck at telling stories in any sort of short amount of time. So anyhow, that's how I almost got my ass kicked because of my iPhone.